In the film's first scene, a pastor tells a little girl named Sarah and her family that if their faith is great, God can even move mountains. The following scene features Sarah and her parents attending her brother Danny's football game. Cindy, Danny's girlfriend, comes along as well. Despite Danny's strong play, Bronner, a player for the other team, dives inside the penalty box, earning Danny a yellow card. Consequently, a penalty kick is given, which Bronner scores with confidence to give his team the victory. Everyone spends the weekend at Sarah's grandfather Sam's house after the game. The children walk to a nearby lake to go fishing shortly after. Sarah decides to use her prayers to revive a dead bird she discovers on the beach. Danny tries to persuade her that she is incapable of resurrecting the dead. The young girl is confident that it will succeed, nevertheless. Soon after, Danny goes fishing with his girlfriend, leading tiny Sarah home to say a prayer for the bird. When the two return an hour later, Sarah is still on her knees in prayer. She claims that she can see God floating over the lake, which surprises me. The bird resurrects itself when the wind suddenly picks up steam. Danny and Cindy can't stop talking as it flies. They don't think Sarah successfully revived the bird, though. They surmise that the wind must have awakened the bird. Sarah tells her granddad about the bird when she returns from the lake. She says the bird flailed its wings and released it because she saw God standing on the other side of the lake. Sam, who adores his granddaughter, claims to trust her since he has always felt that Sarah is unique. Later that evening, after getting home, Sarah calls her closest friend, Mark, who is confined to a wheelchair due to a spinal injury. When she informs him about the miracle, Mark reacts negatively, as one might expect, but in the end, Isaac comes to believe Sarah as she makes promises found in the Bible. After some time, Sarah's mother visits her room and requests that before she goes to bed, she list everything she is thankful for that day. Her mother becomes concerned when the young child unexpectedly says that God will soon take her to heaven. After a few hours, Danny calls his parents to beg them to come check on Sarah, who has become ill. Fortunately, Dr. Ben, their family doctor, shows up right away. Ben determines that Sarah has the stomach flu and will recover in a few days based on her symptoms, which include a high fever and nausea. When Ben leaves, Sarah's father walks into her room and discovers a fantastic painting. Sarah noticed an artwork of God on the lake. Sarah and Mark are on their way home from school 2 days later. While traveling, a group of guys taunt Sarah, calling her weak and pleading with her to revive their deceased pets. It turns out that Mark's excitement for his best friend was the reason he told others about the miracle. Danny and Cindy, who were strolling down the street, witnessed the males harassing Sarah in the interim. Danny trips the youngsters with his football as a result, sending them packing. At that moment, Bronner shows up with his dog and starts making fun of Danny's last game in an attempt to start a fight. Simultaneously, a fast-moving vehicle also shows up and strikes Bronner's dog, instantly killing it. Sarah intervenes and offers prayers for Bronner as he weeps over his deceased puppy. The dog unexpectedly resurrects and engages in play with her. Everybody witnessing the miracle is in disbelief. Among the guests is Mark, who asks Sarah to heal his spinal damage. Sarah prays for him, asking God to give her friend back his ability to walk, even though she's not sure if it would succeed. Mark's parents take him to the hospital the next morning so he can visit Dr. Ben. It turns out that following his spinal cord damage, Mark was unable to move his toes at all. The doctor asks him to move again, and to his surprise, Mark succeeds. Ben tells Mark's mother not to have great expectations despite his shock. Even after suffering such a fatal and permanent injury, Mark can suddenly rise and walk. The fact that Mark is able to walk again amazes the physicians. Mark is ecstatic as he walks and gives Sarah credit for mending him. He brings up Bronner's dog as well. Dolores, a member of the media, hears Mark as she is getting checked out at the hospital and chooses to cover the story. Sarah quickly becomes the talk of the news. The pastor and Ben pay Sarah a visit at her home in the following scenario. She leaps with excitement when they tell her about Mark and gives thanks to God for answering her prayers. When the pastor inquires about the lake incident, she tells him everything that happened. Ben, who isn't persuaded, requests that Sarah's parents take her to the hospital so that she can undergo some testing. The physicians, however, are at a loss as to how Mark might have recovered. Therefore, the pastor surmises that the girl must have had some exceptional quality. He also understands that Sarah would never tell a flat lie. When Sarah's father returns to her room later, he finds her sketching a young woman galloping over a field. She claims the girl appeared in her dreams and that she wants to befriend her when questioned. It turns out that the girl is Teresa, a cancer patient who has a deep love for horses. Her cancer is getting worse, and she fears that she will not survive. Teresa's mother wants to take her daughter to Sarah in order for her to get healed because she has heard about Sarah from the news. The next day, a large number of parents come to Sarah's residence to receive treatment for their sick and impaired children. A compassionate Sarah asks them what they would do if she were ill and there was a chance they could help her with such miracles after her parents decide to send those individuals away. Her parents worry that if she goes out and heals everyone, she won't have another chance to be a young child since more people would keep coming over and it won't stop. Sarah, nevertheless, ignores him and walks outside. As soon as she sees Teresa, she recognizes her from her nightmares. She then approaches her, shakes her hand, and says a prayer. As soon as she finishes her prayers, Teresa feels better, almost as if she has been cured. In the end, Sarah cures everyone who is waiting to be cured, including a blind girl and a kid with disabilities. But just as she's about to enter the house, she passes out from sheer tiredness. Without any delay, her parents bring her to Ben's clinic, where he arranges for an MRI and performs several blood tests. Ben is informed by Sarah's mother that she was unable to leave bed for the entire day following her prayer for Mark, and that she eventually passed out from exhaustion from curing so many people at once. She finds it unbelievable that such miracles can occur. At that moment, a staff member calls Ben and Sarah's parents outside the hospital, where reporters have gathered. Sarah is being aired on all news channels, where she is referred to as a miracle worker. Ben asks Sarah's parents to stay at Sam's house for a few days following her MRI so they can avoid the media. As a result, they take Sarah to her grandfather's house by sneaking her out the back door. Sarah's mother tells Sam everything that transpired earlier at his house. After witnessing Sarah heal the victims magically, she's still in disbelief. She is concerned, though, because Sarah is growing ill every day ever since she claimed to have seen God. She suddenly gets a call from the doctor and starts crying. Sam visits the same lake where Sarah says she saw God in the incident that follows. He prays to God there for his granddaughter's healing. He sobs, imploring God to explain why he created Sarah to be so flawless before snatching her from them. Ben and the pastor visit Sam's house the next day to talk about Sarah. The young girl is sent outdoors, but she comes back and listens in on the discussion. The physician soon discloses that Sarah may have been experiencing delusions of God due to an incurable brain tumor. The doctor tells Sarah's mother that it was a form of mass hypnosis in response to her question about all the people she has healed. After hearing everything, Sarah is distraught when Ben informs her parents that she has a terminal illness and that there is no treatment. Sarah walks over to her mother as she sobs and begs her not to cry. The young child tries to console her mother by telling her that when she goes to paradise, she will be with a happy and secure God. She wants to go back to the lake, nevertheless, and beg God to postpone her leaving for a few years. Sarah becomes lightheaded and collapses to the ground as she continues to insist. Her parents hurried her to the hospital as a result. Danny and Cindy later leave the hospital after the little girl regains consciousness and head to Sam's, where they run into Teresa, Mark, their parents, and the preacher. Teresa informs everyone that last week, when Sarah cured her, she saw a ghostly figure hovering over Sarah and reaching out to touch the kids. Teresa felt different and warm for the first time in years after she prayed for her. She immediately realized she had been treated and felt well. Teresa thinks it's time to aid Sarah in return for her desire to serve others. Sam says that he and the pastor have a plan to grant Sarah's final wish to travel to the lake after Teresa has finished her speech. Sam wishes to take care of Sarah for his granddaughter, even though it will upset Dr. Ben, Sarah's parents, and everyone else at the hospital. The reason for this is that the elderly man thinks the lake is mystical. He's positive Sarah knows something that might be helpful that no one else does. After hearing this, everyone decides to assist Sarah in reaching the lake. Later that evening, the group works together to deceive Dr. Ben, Sarah's parents, and the medical staff in order to get the young girl released from the facility. Mark and Cindy follow Danny and Teresa's mother as soon as they get into their car with Sarah. Sam and the pastor dash to Sam's car as soon as Sam receives a text from his grandson. Regretfully, a journalist from the media spots Sarah inside the vehicle and alerts others within the medical facility. When Sarah's parents discover that Sam has taken her to the lake, they are startled to find Teresa rather than their daughter. So they get in their car and drive off. Officers begin pursuing Danny and Sam in other places after they exceed the speed limit. Sadly, a tree falls and blocks the road just as Danny is about to escape the cops. Danny is unable to carry his sister all the way to the lake due to the storm and excessive rain. At that moment, Bronner offers his assistance and rescues them. He says he has a shortcut he knows and that he always brings Sarah with him since he owes her for saving his dog. Danny and Bronner take turns carrying the young child as they go to the lake. A wolf growls at them as they travel, but Bronner's dog chases it away. When Danny and Bronner eventually get at the lake with Sarah, the former begins to pray for his sister. Sarah's parents show up at that very moment, along with a number of other guests. Sam gets a hard time from Sarah's mother for taking her daughter there on such a stormy, wet night. Sadly, Sarah dies in the middle of the chaos, leaving everyone in shock. All of a sudden, God emerges as a brilliant light swirls over the lake. After that, Sarah's spirit leaves her body and travels to God. Everyone is shocked by what they just seen. While they are heartbroken by Sarah's passing, they are also somewhat glad to see that she is grasping God's hand. Then they carry Sarah's body inside and place her on the bed. Danny shows everyone the drawing that Sarah did of herself holding God's hand. It dawns on them that the young girl was aware that God was pursuing her. Danny discovers another artwork shortly after that shows Sarah returning from heaven. Everyone becomes hopeful upon witnessing this, and Danny begins fervently praying. Finally, his prayers are heard as Sarah gasps and comes back to life. She tells how God sent her back to take care of her family, since she informed him she wasn't ready for heaven yet. Dr. Ben finally began to believe in God's miracles after seeing everything happen before his very eyes. Sarah then surprises those burning candles in her honor by going outside after her passing. Everyone kneels, viewing her as God's kid, but Sarah motions for them to stand up. She says that in order for God to assist them, they must all have confidence in Him and pray to Him. She also exhorts everyone to share love, cherish their families and children, and make an effort to assist one another. God, who loves everyone, will undoubtedly assist them. The town visits the church at the end of the film and listens to the preacher with unwavering faith in God. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.